Hey you, so on this video, stacking versus collecting versus preserving, I'm going to be going over my interpretation of just that, those three things when we're getting into whichever metal it may be, gold, silver, platinum, the difference and my definition of what I believe those are, and the dangers that can arise when you get into those and not knowing what you're doing or knowing what you're doing. So before we get into this, I'd like to say if you haven't done so already, please do like and also go ahead and subscribe, and also let me know your interpretations of the three that I'm going to be bringing up. These are going to be the main three when you're talking gold, silver, or platinum that either one of us are doing. So, we're going to either be preserving our wealth, depending on your standpoint from that. That's going to be the key objective. You're going to be stacking, and I'm going to break down my interpretation of that, or you're going to be collecting. So let's break into this once again. Let me know which one you do down below in the comments and which ones you find more important than others. So, if you do have, a ranking of those three. So jumping straight into this, I would say my version or interpretation of those three there, and I'll give you what I believe they mean to me. And so first off is going to be a preservation of wealth, and I'll break down the dangers of this at the end of the video. But when you're talking a preservation of wealth, when you decide to put your funds into, precious metals to do that, there's other, vehicles you can do to preserve your wealth, but it's pretty straightforward, self-explanatory. But how I perceive it is that, if you've got 10K, for instance, $1,000, £1,000, and you want to put it into something that's going to help preserve your wealth, so it's not going to erode it over time. So if you took £10,000 today and you put it into precious metals, over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to stay where it is, not necessarily be an investment in that it will shoot up in price, but it's going to retain its purchasing power and its worth. It's not going to shrink over time. So you don't want to lose any wealth in the long run or any purchasing power. So that's the name of the game there when you're getting into stacking or, picking up gold and silver for preservation of wealth. Exactly that. And that's how I perceive and understand it to be. Next, I would say, you can get into this and then you're going to come under the guise of, let's say, stacking. How I perceive stacking and see stacking, I think the word itself, from what I understand and seen, could be something associated with the gold and silver community in as a long, and it's just a more trendy and newer form of saying, or more allocated towards gold and silver way of saying preserving the wealth. So, it's the more in term to basically say I'm preserving my wealth, but you say I'm stacking gold and silver. It can be seen like, you understand exactly what I'm doing right here. You're stacking your wealth. And so, I don't know who came up with it or where it was brought, but you're stacking. You're adding to your, stack of gold or silver, stacking. But I will also break in how I perceive it to be in terms of importance and the differences when it comes to preserving in a moment. And then next, I would say collecting. Collecting, to me, also has two sides to it. And the first would be a hardcore collector, a hobbyist. So somebody, you find collectors in many other arenas also, Beanie Babies, comics, bottle lids, stamps, wherever it may be. You're going to find people that have taken to collecting, i.e. a hobby. I wouldn't say the greater fool, but, if they do intend to sell, it's normally the rule of the game, so collecting, hardcore collector, price is no object. If they like it, they like it. Their thing is coins. It doesn't necessarily need to be gold or silver as the intrinsic. They do it because they like it. And now, more modern stuff and more of the more, highly collectible stuff that somebody's willing to pay more for normally comes in the gold or silver format. And so that's that. But then another edge to collecting would be where I put myself also in seeing the appeal in the collector side of things, knowing that it can be purchased and sold at a greater price later on. I once again wouldn't say the greater fool theory here, but I can see a good buck to be made there getting involved in that arena. And I think you're going to find the Cowboys always in any arena when you're talking a hardcore hobby, because they can see money there. So the Cowboys are needed, just we could flippers, Cowboys, call them what you want, are always involved in hardcore hobbyists collecting things because they can see that there's some coin to be made there also. So that's how I break all three of those down: stacking versus collecting versus preserving. That's my take on all of them from there. Now I'll break down more, into the niggle wiggles of things. So I would say stacking, because that's what we all mainly say in this gold and silver stacking community. We're stacking gold and silver, full gold stack, full silver stack, stack. And now how I would perceive stacking is that where it differs a little from preservation of wealth is that, you know, a preservation of wealth when you're getting into gold and silver is going to be, you know, you don't want to pay more on the front end. So, i.e., you don't want to be paying high premiums when you're looking at something, because technically you're already starting to erode into your premiums. You're erode into your savings, should I say. So, for instance, if you was to see a coin and its spot price was $10, or, you know, you don't want to be paying a high percentage over that, because you're now digging into your own wealth and you don't believe you're going to see that at a later date. And that's just playing it safe, but it's also the smartest way to play it. So, i.e., the name of the game strictly is to go no more than, it's usually 2 to 5% above spot. You want to keep it as close to spot as possible. You don't care, you don't give a damn, you know, it's bars, you know, coins, whatever, generic, whatever is going to get the mission completed, you know, whatever's going to get the job done, the best piece or, you know, object to acquire that. And that's going to be as closest to spot, and silver is silver, gold is gold. No fancy patterns, nothing to do with the collecting side of things, and nothing to do with the stacking side of things. Whereas I believe when you look at something like stacking now, you can veer a little. You know, we know it's associated more to the newer mint coins, you know, so a lot of the newer collectors, you know, a lot of the old guys don't even view us collectors. We're just, you know, technically stackers, best way to call it once again. Whereas 30, 40 years from now, everybody stacking now doing YouTube videos are going to be the connoisseur stackers, because a lot of the old guard would have passed on, and you would have been here for long enough with the newer mints or the same mints producing coins like this that now have more pedigree and history to them. So when you're looking at something like stacking, you can bend it a little, so you aren't going to stick to the script of preserving as strongly, and it'll be more in terms of how much you're paying over spot price, because a lot of the newer collector coins, whether it be production, you know, just, you know, research and information into the background of the coin, a lot goes into producing these coins. It's not as simple as just getting the gold stamp and done. So you're going to be paying more of a higher premium over spot price automatically. That can be anywhere from 30 to 50% at times. Somebody that's strictly preserving wealth is going to cringe at that and say, hell no. And then you may find something that you believe is going to technically, when you're stacking, preserve your wealth better, getting into somewhat of a collector coin, a newer collector coin, be it a Luna or something. You know, you're a stacker and you're walking that tightrope, and you're learning as you go, but you're not as hardcore to the script as somebody that's going to be preserving on such a stable level. So I would say majority of the newer mint coins, when you're picking them up, you fall straight under the stacking category, because you're not picking up something. And there is a rule of thumb. You could find anybody that strictly does not get into any of these fancy coins. And I've had many on the channel before, and, you know, couldn't care less. Generic's the way to go, and you never want to pay more than 5% above spot price. Whereas a stacker is going to be a little more laxed and can see more potential in certain coins. You know, veering a little into the collector side, but not as a hardcore hobbyist collector where price is no object. You don't even look at price. So that's my version of a stacker, what the majority of us are going to be. You know, we look at the new mint coin stuffs, everything that's produced by the new mints. You're somewhat switched onto the news, i.e. watching these types of channels, and you know what's hot and what's not. And, you know, sometimes it can't be taking current spot price into account. I don't know where we are, £14 or something like that. Paying anywhere from £20 to £25, you're talking dollars, $25 to $30 is acceptable, because you believe that you can, if you're going to, sell it on for more, and it's what the current rate is. Sometimes you don't need to play it as strictly to the script. You know, I've mentioned this 1,001 times. It would be one of the only arenas where many people take the initial cost of something into account so harshly, but everything around them, they don't do that, i.e. the price of a burger when you take the bun or whatever top you're wearing or something like that. But that's my interpretation of a stacker. Somebody that's willing to pay a little bit more but doesn't go crazy with it, and understands they're part of the new wave moving forward. They look at the new modern collector coins with options or intentions of purchasing because they believe it can make their stack stronger. So you're a stacker. You're not strictly preserving wealth. A more new gen form of calling yourself somebody preserving their wealth. Next, niggling down also, as mentioned, when you're looking at somebody that's hardcore preserving their wealth, they're not going to go above a certain price. As mentioned a second ago, it's strictly you want to keep it below, nothing more than 2 to 5% max, and you're technically going to go generic. When you're talking silver, when you're talking gold, there's also fractional, i.e. 916, not full gold, but still contains as much gold as you're paying for. These are the types of people, once again, that play it strictly to the script. But when you're looking at somebody that's a collector now, this is where more of the dangers blend in, and I would say a collector can also be a stacker and somebody preserving their wealth. And I've said this before, when you're on YouTube watching people give their comments on something, you really need to understand where that person stands in terms of collecting, stacking, and the likes of, because somebody could be recommending a coin and they're coming at it from a collector standpoint, and they may not advertise that they're a hardcore collector and money's no object, or and then other people may get into that coin or look at that coin series or purchase that, and they may be somebody that's more of a stacker, but be taking advice of somebody that's a hardcore collector. Somebody preserving wealth is always going to tell you want to get regardless of what it is, and it's not very hard from there, so you know what you're doing. And so I would say, ultimately, rounding this one up, the biggest dangers come when you don't know which one you are, and when you start mixing and blending all together. The safest bet is always going to be the preserving of wealth, and for me, that's always going to be your government collector coin. I think when you're looking at preservation of wealth also, the form you're stacking is also playing a big role now. And this is just, the way I've been as of recent, as many of my videos you can see. I think if you're putting the bulk of your wealth into silver, for instance, as opposed to gold, I think there's more of a danger of maybe losing some of your wealth, or some of your wealth eroding over time. That's just the way I see things and the way I've adjusted my stack. But, there's a lot more passion, as we've said before. So there is, some unforeseeable pitfalls that some people may not see, because they may believe that something is a lot better than it is, and it's going to come into its own at a later date. But I'd rather play things as they are now, especially when I'm talking about my wealth long term. So you can get somebody that believes they're preserving wealth, for instance, but in reality they're technically collecting and they're purchasing like a hardcore collector. Then you may find somebody that's stacking, but it's also, I think the worst of both worlds is when you're stacking. You think you're stacking, but you're putting your money into some very poor coins. So if you thought you wouldn't be eroding your wealth in the long term, that's going to happen, because a lot of the new mint stuff, as we've all seen, is fast and furious. So as they're pumping so much out, it's technically, watering down what's currently there, or if it's a series, what's going to be. And so a lot of people can see a coin and think that's fantastic, that's a pretty coin. You know what you're paying on the new mint stuff. You can gauge it against the rest. But in reality, it's going to tank in price, and that's always a danger when you're looking at collector coins. Numismatic, also another term that's being put in the stacking community. But, you can lose that extra premium you paid straight away because it wasn't a strong mint. Demand was there for while it was released, and then as time goes on, you're going to see you've done the actual opposite of all three put together, and that's go wrong. If you're going to be paying a larger premium for something straight off the bat, you want to know that it's not going to tank in price as time moves on if you can't liquidate it, and also if there's no demand for it. So that's another killer of your wealth right there. So those are the long-term dangers when you're looking at something like stacking versus collecting versus preserving. Getting confused as to which one you're doing and not knowing which one you're doing, and not knowing the pitfalls of each one. I think when you look at stacking as a whole, or collecting or preserving your wealth, it's going to, if you're to ask somebody, it's going to differ from person to person. It's either going to be something that's really easy or something that's really complex. You're going to have somebody that's going to tell you to buy what you like and like what you buy, but then what are you actually liking and putting your money into? You're going to have somebody that's going to tell you to buy on the dips. Always buy when it's a dip. What is a dip? A dip's going to be different from person to person. There's somebody that's going to be stacking for the past 30 plus years and tell you, the current dips ain't dips. They was buying in single digits. You're going to have people tell you to DCA, pound cost average, dollar cost average. I think that, I personally don't do that, but I think ultimately in the long run, you will win doing that. There is some, smart sense and logic behind doing that, especially if you're going to be purchasing and it's going to be a lifestyle for the long term. You have a set amount and you put it in every month. You don't really see the gains in the short term, but if you go long, you most definitely will see the gains in doing that. So these are approaches that people are going to tell you, and some would say easy, and some would say, oh no, if I'm telling you to buy in the dips, what is a dip? You know, if I'm telling you to dollar cost average, it's the safest long term way of doing something. You know, allocate £150, pick your time of the month and do it every month. And then regardless of where the spot price is, up or down, you know, in the long term, some of your higher buys will be brought down just because you've done that. So once again, let me know which one you do and which one you think is the best approach. I've always said, you know, government is for me, you know, but I can now see the benefits of having in my stack hardcore collector coins that I've purchased that I intend to sell at a later date. The one thing I would say of all of those, I've always been classed as the cowboy collector / stacker, is that I am not a collector at heart. You know, I'm not passionate about this to the point where I purchase something, I love it, it's going to kill me to let go of it. You know, the one that got away. I think, you know, when you're talking your own savings, it can be dangerous getting into that type of a thing, but we all have our vices if you want to class this as that. And you know, there's 101 things you could put your money on that would be worse than paying, I don't know, give or take 100% over spot price for a silver coin that you liked that's got flaming, you know, lines down the middle or something. So I think ultimately in the long run, if you're putting your money into gold, silver or platinum, it could be a lot worse. You know, it's all going to boil down to liquidity, how easy it is for you to liquidate whatever you've put your money into. I think if you've got it in one of the three top boys, I would say mainly the two top, which will be gold or silver, it'll be all right on the night. It'll just be taking a little longer, so you have to see how things work out from there. But let me know which one you do religiously and which one you stick with. You know, in the beginning, it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole. You get into stacking. This is a mistake we all make, and you just go gun ho and you start purchasing silver coins way over spot that you shouldn't, or even some gold pieces because you believe, you know, they've come out and it's got a low mintage. You know, that's been the battle for a long time. Low mintage, high price, or high price, low mintage. Some mints have stuck with the newer model, i.e. the Royal Mint will go lower mintage and increase the price. Some mints want to be able to do both, you know, increase the price, decrease the mintage. And that's always going to be the name of the game. But I wouldn't get caught up on the low mintage stuff and believe because it has a low mintage, it's an automatic hit. It's just not working like that these days. It's become ever harder. And, you know, with these mints producing more and more, it's become more of a landfill. But let me know which one you do, which one you know, stand by, and which ones you see carry the biggest dangers. So I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Once again, if you haven't done so already, please do go ahead and like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys on the rebound.